Now we know that the chapters and verses of the Bible were not originally in the scrolls. Man divided the chapters. But what is amazing is that in the Hebrew alphabet consists of 22 letters. The book of Revelation consists of 22 chapters. And every chapter of Revelation stamped in order the meaning of the Hebrew letter. It's phenomenal. What it shows is the inspiration of the Scriptures. This letter, Bet, or what some people say, bait, but how you pronounce it, Bet is usually what I've heard. But the letter Bet is used for the number 2, and also it was a symbol of the home, the house of a meeting or a holy temple, since the very pronunciation of this letter forms the Hebrew word that means house. Okay, so what they're saying here is the actual word Bet, which is the name of the letter, means literally in Hebrew, it means the house. Okay? Anciently, you can see that the letter was written like this, and you can see it's like a door that goes in like a tent, right? Can you see that's a doorway leading? This was someone's house. Well, in the second chapter of Revelation, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the churches, right? The churches are the house of God on the earth, right? The church we're living stones representing the house of God. In the second chapter of John, we have a connection. Remember, the letter in John corresponds also with Revelation. In the second chapter of John, we have the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. What we have in John is the bride, the wedding, and the bride, which is the church, a symbol of the church, right? So do you see, the whole thing connects here. Also, in John, we see another thing that's in there is when he had made a scourge of the small courts, he drove them all out of the temple and sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, overthrew the tables. You remember when Jesus overthrew the money changers' tables? That was the house. He said, my house will be called a house of prayer. You've made it a den of thieves. So the emphasis was upon the house, which that second letter represents the house of God, okay, which is the church, right? The next slide connects again. The second constellation is actually Gemini. How many have heard of Gemini? Now, sometimes people call it the twins. But anciently, what it actually was represented, it mostly represented two people that were in a blood covenant with each other. And they used to refer to this anciently as Adam and Eve, or the husband and the wife, because the closest thing to a blood covenant that we knew of was a marriage covenant. And so this has always represented a covenant, which is what we had with Jesus. When Jesus offered up his blood and his bread, he was making a covenant, right? He was making a covenant with his bride, which is what the second sign in the heavens represented. And regarding this constellation, the Hebrew name for the constellation is Thummim. The name gives us the idea of being united together in a common fellowship or brotherhood. It indicates a covenant relationship that might best be illustrated as two cords intertwined together. And here we have the wedding. talking about the blood covenant. The blood covenant was akin to that of a marriage covenant in the minds of the people of old, and some of the ancients thought of these two figures as representing Adam and Eve bound together in holy matrimony.